Welcome to this lecture on principles of ecology. Today, we are going to explore two of the most fascinating concepts in nature, the ecotone and the edge effect. We will discover exactly why the boundaries between different habitats are often the most vibrant and crowded places on Earth, and why understanding them is absolutely crucial for wildlife conservation. To begin, let us think about a beautiful sandy beach. It is not just the deep ocean, and it is not just dry land. It is a unique, dynamic mixing zone where the water constantly meets the sand. In this specific zone, you find creatures from the ocean, like crabs, and creatures from the land, like birds, plus unique creatures that only live in that wet sand. This mixing zone is exactly what ecologists call an ecotone. Just like a bustling city intersection, these boundary zones are often the most active and diverse places around. Now that we have an intuitive picture, let us define this formally. An ecotone is a transition area between two adjacent but distinct ecological communities or ecosystems. It is very important to understand that an ecotone is not a sharp, invisible line drawn on a map. Rather, it is a physical, tangible zone that shares characteristics of both bordering environments. Because it blends two completely different worlds together, it creates a completely new set of environmental conditions that you cannot find anywhere else. This blending of habitats leads us to a phenomenon known as the edge effect. The edge effect refers to the ecological reality where there is a significantly higher density and diversity of species in this transition zone compared to the adjacent inner ecosystems. Why does this happen? Because the ecotone offers resources, habitats, and microclimates from both bordering communities at the same time, plus unique conditions created by their overlap. It is essentially the best of both worlds. Because these transition zones are so rich in resources, certain organisms have evolved to thrive specifically in these boundary areas. We call these organisms edge species. They rely heavily on the mixed resources that only an ecotone can provide, such as using one side for shelter and the other side for food. Understanding edge species is crucial because it explains exactly why boundaries in nature are often massive hotspots for biodiversity, supporting life that simply cannot survive in the deep interior of either adjacent habitat. So, why do we care about ecotones and the edge effect? In the real world, these concepts are absolutely vital for wildlife conservation and land management. When humans build roads or clear forests, we artificially create new edges, which can sometimes harm species that need deep, undisturbed forests. Conversely, natural ecotones like estuaries provide a natural buffer against floods. By studying ecotones, ecologists can design better national parks that balance the needs of both edge-loving and interior-dependent wildlife. To truly understand the edge effect, we must measure it mathematically. We do this using a simple ratio called the edge effect index. This formula comes from comparing the biodiversity of the boundary to the average biodiversity of the surrounding areas. In this formula, S ecotone is the total number of species found in the transition zone. SA and SB are the number of species in the two adjacent ecosystems, like a forest and a grassland. If the number of unique species in the ecotone increases, the overall EEI value goes up, indicating a much stronger edge effect physically. Let us see this formula in action with a concrete example. Imagine a dense forest that contains 20 distinct animal species. right next to a wide grassland containing 12 distinct species. The transition zone between them contains 28 distinct species. We want to calculate the edge effect index. First, we add the species of the forest and grassland together, which is 32, and divide by 2 to find the average, which is 16. We place this average in the denominator. The numerator is the ecotone species richness, 28. Dividing 28 by 16 gives us a final edge effect index of 1.75. Now that we have calculated the index, let us prove what it means ecologically. We found an edge effect index of 1.75. The mathematical condition for an edge effect to be present is that the index must be greater than 1. Because 1.75 is significantly greater than 1, it physically tells us that the transition zone supports 75% more species diversity than the average of the two neighboring habitats. This mathematically confirms a strong positive edge effect, proving that the boundary provides a mix of hiding spots and foraging opportunities. Beyond looking at overall species diversity, ecologists also look at individual species. Let us look at a specific edge species, the white-tailed deer, which loves the boundary between woods and fields. To see where the deer truly thrive, we can compare their population densities across the deep forest, the open field, and the ecotone. By comparing these densities, we can mathematically prove whether the deer prefers the edge habitat over the interior habitats. This is a standard method used in the wild. To make this mathematical comparison, we need the standard formula for population density. Population density is calculated by dividing the total number of individuals by the total area they occupy. In this general formula, D represents the population density, measured in individuals per square kilometer. N represents the total number of deer counted in a specific area, and A represents the total area of that zone in square kilometers. If the number of individuals N increases while the area A stays exactly the same, the density D will naturally increase, showing a higher concentration of life. Let us calculate the densities for our deer example. In a 4 square kilometer area of deep forest, there are 24 deer. Dividing 24 by 4 gives a density of 6 deer per square kilometer. Next, in a 3 square kilometer open field, there are 6 deer, giving a very low density of 2 deer per square kilometer. Finally, in the small 2 square kilometer ecotone between them, we count 30 deer. Dividing 30 by 2 results in a massive density of 15 deer per square kilometer. Let us analyze what these numbers prove. The final population density is 6 in the forest, 2 in the field, and 15 in the ecotone. The edge effect is clearly visible here, as the density in the transition zone is more than double the density of the best adjacent habitat, which was the forest. This mathematically proves that the white-tailed deer is a classic edge species. It shows how much the deer rely on the mixed resources of the boundary, using the forest for cover and the field for grazing. To bring all of this together, let us look at this diagram. On the bottom, you can see ecosystem A, the forest, on the left, and ecosystem B, the grassland, on the right. In the middle is the ecotone, where the trees and grass blend. Above this, we have a graph where the vertical axis represents species richness, and the horizontal axis represents distance. Notice how the curve stays relatively low over the pure forest and pure grassland, but spikes dramatically right over the ecotone. That massive peak is the visual representation of the edge effect. We have covered a lot of ground today. To wrap up, remember that an ecotone is the physical transition zone where two different ecosystems meet and blend together. Because this boundary offers a unique combination of resources, it creates the edge effect, which is a significant spike in biodiversity and population density. We also learned that edge species rely heavily on these specific zones to survive. Ultimately, understanding and protecting these overlapping habitats is absolutely critical for global wildlife conservation and maintaining healthy ecosystems. Thank you for joining this lecture.